pen is mightier than the sword. With a pen and paper, you can bring your feelings, ideas, and opinions to life. And people can actually meet you without having to meet you. And now here's the catch. What do you do when you have about 100 period essays, many of them written quite articulately, yet you have to choose the best? How challenging can this be? I reckon quite challenging. But then you'll find out today what I'm talking about. First, let me welcome you to my period stories. We'll be back with all the details after the break. You're watching My Period Stories with me, your host, Funke Treasure. This is a show where we talk about periods, menstrual hygiene, health, policies that will enable our secondary school girls to have access to pads for free, and in fact, many more. We're talking about My Period Stories essay competition today. And our guest gives me a lot of pleasure to introduce him. Our guest is Olatunde Solarin, who's the director of Lantern Books, Literamed Publications, and is the founder of the Book Swap Foundation. Is also an Ashoka Fellows partner. Is an award-winning writer, filmmaker, and is also into 3D animation. That is interesting. Welcome here, Olatunde Solarin.
Thank you very much.
That name.
Yeah.
It's a very popular name. Are you who a lot of people are thinking you are?
No, there's the Solarin family is quite large. My grandfather had 22 children, for example. There are 3 branches. It's still all comes together at some point, but it's a large family. So
yeah, but this is Literamed, and we know.
Oh yeah, from that, yeah. But normally a lot of people think of Thai Solarin when they see me. That's the famous Solarin. But yeah, no, my father was a big educator. He believed in seeing what he could do for the future of Nigeria. So I feel like I've taken a little bit of that on board.
Yes, indeed. The interesting thing about what you do is they're all about telling stories. So you're a storyteller.
I'm a storyteller fundamentally.
Yes.
So it's I tell stories visually and through clever use of words. So it's there's a difference between a good story and a bad story.
What's the difference?
It's how much color a story has, how much you feel like you live within the story, how deep it penetrates. So if you read a good story, you feel like you've been there. If you read that's technique. And that's a pleasure of writing. But when we want to talk about things like period stories, everybody needs to. You don't have to be the best at something. So in this writing competition, we were looking at the best writer about a period, and I just want to make that distinction a little bit because it's very important that people tell their stories, whether they feel like they can do it well or not.
Just tell the story.
Just tell your story.
You don't have to be perfect.
You don't have to be perfect. If you want to make it into a craft, like anything, it can be a source of beauty. So when we were looking at the competition, we were really looking to. Well, I was looking to find that source of beauty, as well as substance, because all the stories had substance. Everybody who entered the competition has a legitimate story to tell, but when it's a competition, you have to judge.
Yeah, the thing about stories, and you've talked about beauty, you've talked about substance, you've talked about it not being perfect.
Yeah.
And then what people think when they hear of calls for entries or like that, they're thinking, oh no, I don't think my story is good enough. I don't think I'm writing it the right way. How do you, what is the right way? You're the head of the panel of judges, about 6 people. You headed that panel, and you were the first to actually finish with all 84 entries that we had. What was it like for you, reading through the array of stories and connecting with those girls at that level?
It was amazing. I came to understand about period poverty quite recently through Ashoka. One of the Ashoka Young Change Makers is called Pink Diva. She's the person I'm basing the book on, which is coming out soon. And I was actually quite shocked to find out that this was an issue. And I kind of wanted to get to the core of the reason why. Because and I think the reason why is very far-reaching. I'll even take it from a historical perspective.
Context, yes.
Because I think, our cultures have been so disrupted by the Europeans that we no longer have the systems in place that took care of these things. Something that, has been discussed is like, well, the normal answer is like, why is this still a problem? After so many years of being on the planet as a species, why is this still a problem? They did know how to take care of themselves. There are simple solutions. But because of the society we live in, because of the pharmaceutical companies, because of capitalism, we have been separated from those solutions. And we've been told the problem is more complex than it is. And I'm a firm believer that that is not the case. And so, it sort of set me on a journey of collecting some of these stories because, like, I want to make an avatar that can talk about these things and find different ways to bring these stories back to life. I mean, I think my function's a little bit to revive the wisdom and of the old culture that was here, and sort of separate out a little bit all of this marketing and sales and money making system that we live in. So in doing that, I asked the lady who works at the house. I said, what did your mother do? What did your grandmother do?
That's a recurrent question everywhere. What about your grandmother?
And she said they use charcoal and palm oil.
To do what?
To maintain the hygiene.
Okay, I'm going to have to sit properly to hear this. Charcoal and palm oil? How?
Just a mixture. So, I mean, I found this very interesting because I've been looking at charcoal as a solution for a lot of different ailments. It's very good. It's a good detoxant. It if you have an ulcer, it cleans the whole system. It absorbs all the poisons. It's a deodorizer. I've done a little bit of research as to whether that is a solution for female hygiene, menstrual hygiene. It is. But
it is.
The problem is it costs, how do you charge people for charcoal? It's something that you just burn. You can create it by, making a fire and using the ashes. And ashes they're very known for being antiseptic. It's like a survival technique. If you cut yourself, you can put ash on the wound and that will, prevent it from going septic. So the problem is we live with pharmaceutical companies that want to complicate everything because, it can't possibly be so simple. But we're not dealing with the ignorance of the old culture. We're dealing with the ignorance of the Europeans.
The ignorance of the Europeans. Please let me pause you there and take you back to what that lady said about palm oil and charcoal. So did you probe further to find out?
I didn't. That's all the information she had. So, I mean, I haven't probed further, but I've probed on the charcoal side because I know that charcoal works. So, it's an anti-poison, it's an antiseptic, it's antibacterial. It has a lot of these properties. So, there can be simple solutions. It's
that are organic, not necessarily complicated, complex.
But the pharmaceutical companies do not want us to know that, because if they know that, then they'll be out of business. And this is the same for many of their pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals have their place.
No doubt about that, yes.
But they do not have their place from A to Z of life.
That's right.
And it's the same with the foods and everything. But that's the how they make money, and that's the biggest drive. So they would be happy to, in order to create a pharmaceutical, you have to have a formula that's unique, to patent it, in order to sell the pharmaceutical, and to prevent other people from selling the same pharmaceutical. Otherwise, you can't charge a certain amount. Now that means they have to take a derivative of something that already exists in nature, but the natural product, 9 times out of 10, has balancing factors that does not cause the side effects that the pharmaceutical product does.
Right, I know that we're talking, this is an aside, by the way. We're talking about the essay competition. And you're the head of judges for our essay competition last year.
It's not so aside, because there's what I'm trying to get at is there's merit in going into the old stories of the culture. And finding the wisdom that is there and not sort of dismissing it as something that's dirty or wrong. Because that's what we've been fed as a culture, but that's not necessarily true, because we weren't there. We just know what we're told right now. So do not dismiss your cultural heritage and the cultural knowledge for the sake of, just, put everything in its place. Everywhere has its place. The pharmaceuticals have their place, but the cultural knowledge has its place as well.
I like that you've said that do not discard your culture. It has its place. Well, we're not condemning the pharmaceutical companies. We're just saying that there is beauty and there is substance and there is authenticity in telling our stories and sticking with our culture.
Exactly, and we need to perpetuate our stories. So that's...
I got it.
Why I'm a storyteller.
Right. You're watching My Period Stories. We'll take a break at this juncture. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Right. You're watching My Period Stories with me, Funke Treasure. I have with me in the studio the head of the panel of judges for our My Period Stories essay competition, the first of its kind. I remember we had this conversation. You'd read some of these scripts from these entries from these girls, and you said, "Look, I don't know why people say there's something wrong with our reading culture and all of that." Walk us through your experience reading, because I know you had like about 7 people who were vying for the first position. And I went like, Mr. Solarin, we have to cut them down. So talk to us about your experience.
The stories were amazing because each of them was an authentic voice. Some you could tell were sort of, people talking about they're repeating stories that they heard, or what they think they should say. But the most pleasure is when the girl was just sort of pouring her heart out onto the page and sort of just writing it as it happened. It was and yes, you do get to meet each individual along the way as you read the stories, which is great. And like we said, we're going to try and we're looking at some projects in order to bring these stories further.
Yes, and I was particularly excited when you introduced the AI reading the stories to it. I was so particularly thrilled and listening to it and seeing how we can also recreate the stories with technology.
Yeah, what's happening in tech is amazing at the moment, especially for storytellers, because the biggest barrier has always been, again, financial, having to, the whole business model for creators is changing. Beforehand, where you had to have like 10 different artists, in order to create one piece of work, you can now create what you want rather than to have to filter that vision through so many people. As much as that is, it is useful to be able to filter through so many people, it can also be a barrier. So tech is liberating us, and it's something that hopefully through future essays we want to use we want to encourage girls to be using, or children generally to be using tech to let their voices be heard.
Yeah.
and express themselves.
And I like that. Let's just take a break and watch what you did with one of the entries. It's so amazing. It's not a Nigerian voice you used.
No, it's
You used a
Lebanese.
South African voice for that. Let's just listen.
I had heard all about it from my classmates. I just couldn't wait to experience it. In the meantime, prepared as much as I could. I wanted to be ready. If only you saw me that time, you would think I was about opening a warehouse. I was buying any and every brand of sanitary towel on the market at that time. As a result, my weekly allowance suffered. All of a sudden, I turned 12 and menstruation became the major topic for every girl talk we had in class. However, it wasn't until I celebrated my 15th birthday that I began to assume something was wrong with me. Every time the topic of menstruation was raised, I bowed my head and excused myself as quickly as I could. I avoided such conversations like a plague. What would I say if someone asked me about it? That I was yet to start my period at 15? No way. I went to school that Monday morning. We were about to have our first period when the school bell rang summoning us to the assembly hall. An NGO had sent representatives to speak to the girls, and coincidentally, the subject of their discourse was female sexuality and menstruation. It was like the speaker saw into my heart, because she kept answering my questions, even the ones I had never asked. At the end of her talk, I was stupefied. Contrary to my belief and the general assumption in school, there is no right time for a girl's first period to come. Every girl is different, and so are our bodies. So I worry no more. My period will start when my body is ready. Meanwhile, I think I have enough pads to last me till I'm 20. So instead of purchasing more, I'm saving my allowance. Who knows? One day, I may be the one to tell girls like me all about it.
Right, there you go. The meeting point of culture, of storytelling and technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the tech is changing all the time. That was a program called 11 Labs that I used as the voiceover.
Yeah.
Because, again, getting voiceovers can be challenging.
Right.
But,
copyright and stuff like that.
It's just, again, it's something that that was more difficult in the past. And now people can just do it on their phone, so it's not so difficult.
Right.
But beforehand, you had to get a studio and all different kinds of setup. But nowadays, with the tech, again, it's liberating the conversation. So I used 11 Labs for that, but you've since sent me some voiceovers.
Yes. So what we did then was to say these are the three winners for second, third. Can we have voices so we can animate? You're into animation as well, right? So we wanted to animate the winning entries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's getting there. The tech is, I've sort of seen it coming for a little bit now, but the tech is finally up to a point where things like animations and stuff, it's going to become very easy. What's going to make the difference is how interesting the story is. And if you just want a little bit more background on what makes a story interesting, it's how can it resonate universally? Can I see myself in that story? Is that story telling me something about me, or something that I can experience, or something that I can understand? If you can resonate through a story, the story is good. So
and period stories are so universal. It's everywhere in the world, in every culture. So long as you're a woman, you're either getting into it, writing it, or getting out of it. By that I mean it's either you're a menstruator or you've finished being a menstruator, you're at the menopause point. So I know that you're the second man that I'm going to be speaking with on the show, apart from Dr. Ajayi. Okay, let's just say three of you. But I know how people feel when they say, you're talking menstruation, you're talking periods, how come you're talking to men? You know, what are men doing talking about periods?
Well, it's actually very important. And again, to give a historical context on this, Menstruation is part of a beautiful story of women. But the current story of menstruation is a confused, dirty, hidden away story. Now, both men and women have contributed to that outcome. And men are, it's again, is something I sort of discuss or touch on in my book. It's not, they didn't do it out of malice, they did it out of a protective nature over women. They wanted to protect the childbearer and all that. But protection can become a cage.
And protection can become a cage. That's interesting.
And so the story is in lots of ways we've lost the powerful woman, the goddess, if you like. We have God, but we don't have a goddess. And that is sort of, again, social, political.
That's the power of the feminine within, the ruling feminine. That's the goddess.
And the period story is part of that. But it's been disconnected. So it's we need to reconnect the pieces and understand that the blocks that have been put into place, such as the education system, which is only about 150 years old, if that. Was never adapted to nature. So we need to maybe look at how the education system works and how to adapt it to these things instead of trying to sort of force a system onto nature that doesn't accept it.
This is some depth there.
So there's a big importance to it. So it's men need to be part of this, and men need to be brought into the conversation to understand what their role is. I mean, the fact that I didn't know that this was a problem until 2 or 3 years ago surprised me. Yeah. We need to pick it apart a little bit. So that's where the confusion comes from. From them, the European cities in the history books, they were filthy. They came to the African cities, the South American cities, and they destroyed those cultures, partly with disease. Smallpox wiped out the South American culture. So we need to
reconnect with our roots.
Reconnect, and part of that reconnection is to reconnect with the woman side of the story, by my estimation.
This is so deep. This is so unique a perspective to what we do here on My Period Stories, which really, our goal is really to normalize period conversations. As you've said, what's it with the shame and the stigmatization, the negativity around it, the loss of the goddess within. You captured it in such a way that only a storyteller will capture it that way. You've been watching My Period Stories. It's been my pleasure speaking with the head judge of the panel of judges for the period competition. Let's take another quick break. We'll be right back.
Thank you, SPMC.
Yes, 84 entries, 6 judges. You're the head of the panel of judges. You've debunked the idea that there is no reading culture in Nigeria. But let's then come to the educational system, the Nigerian educational system, which has come under a lot of criticism, lately. What's your take about our system?
The educational system is not a complete system.
How do you mean?
Because this communities, parents, and society need to complete it, because we don't know. A lot of people come out of school without knowing how to survive, without the basic skills. Those are not taught in school. So those need, back in smaller communities, they would always find the knowledge somewhere. But we don't have those communities anymore. So the kids only get the school knowledge, and we wonder why it's not working, because it's not a complete system. So we need to take part in the education of and do it proudly. Again, it's a lot of people be like, just learn the book. That's what we need. The book is important. Like I said, everything has its place. We've just kind of like lost. We've been disempowered over our own children somewhat.
It's the disempowerment that I like in what you said.
And that we need to sort of, again, rebalance and bring the communities back together and connect, because it's the fracture. Being so broken is not serving us.
Right. Okay. So you're into this competition. You're the judge. I keep saying that because I have to keep saying that because it took a chunk of your time, didn't it?
But a pleasurable chunk. Like I said, it's I'd come to the realization of this issue, and I wanted to know more, and it's now part of some of the campaigning that you do. That I do.
Okay, so if you were going to speak to an adolescent girl looking at us now, and you'd like to encourage her to, sending an entry for the next essay competition, what would you tell her?
Well, again, this is where the power of the pen is interesting. Tell us what you feel, and has it been a problem for you? Did you enjoy it? And it's important that you speak about it. So please,
sending your authentic stories.
Yeah.
Don't bother about will he not.
Just because the thing is, it's like like anything, it's you can get better at doing something, but you should always feel the right to speak. You should always feel the right to use your voice. You should also feel the right to use your ears.
You should feel the right to let your voice be heard. I'd like to thank you very much for coming on our set today and sharing your knowledge, your expertise, your life as a storyteller with us, and letting us see how technology can meet with culture, and we can use that to push the narrative that the African culture is authentic, and we should remember the God is within. Thank you so much. That's interesting to hear that from a man. Right. So that's the terminal point. Thank you very much for joining us today on My Period Stories. I'll be back again next week with another fascinating guest. Until then, bye-bye now.